I am my mother's lawyer. The sentence rolled through the courtroom like sudden thunder on a cloudless afternoon. Judge Harrison froze mid-page, peering over his glasses in disbelief. David Thompson was only 9 years old, yet his voice sliced through the rigid quiet of the family court like steel. He stood beside his mother, Janet, whose eyes reflected equal parts pride and fear. Across the room, Robert Wellington III, David's biological father, nearly choked on his coffee. "I'm sorry, young man," the judge said carefully, forcing patience into his voice. "But this is a legal proceeding between adults." His gaze lingered on the thin boy in oversized glasses who had just interrupted a multi-million-dollar custody battle. "I understand, Your Honor," David replied calmly. "And I also know that under Article 12 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, ratified by the United States, I have the right to be heard in matters that directly affect me." He nudged his glasses up and opened a battered school notebook. "This case affects me directly." The silence that followed was overwhelming. Robert Wellington, a Chicago real estate titan dressed in a suit worth more than Janet earned in half a year, stared at his two elite attorneys with barely concealed fury. None of them had anticipated facing a child who quoted international law. Janet Thompson worked 60 hours a week as a nursing assistant, raising David alone. In the 8 years since Robert learned he had a son, he had appeared exactly 4 times, each visit padded with expensive gifts and hollow promises. Now, suddenly, he wanted full custody. "Your Honor," Robert's lead attorney, Dr. Mitchell, cut in, straightening his tie. "This is highly irregular. The child lacks legal capacity." "And if you truly cared about my well-being," David interrupted evenly, causing several adults to shift uncomfortably, "you would want to hear what I have to say, instead of silencing me." Robert leaned in to whisper urgently to Dr. Mitchell, but David was already opening his notebook again. "Your Honor, I've prepared a documented presentation explaining why I should remain with my mother, including evidence regarding the petitioner's real motivations." His eyes met Robert's for the first time. "Motivations. I believe the court will find illuminating." Robert's face tightened. What could a 9-year-old possibly know? And yet everyone in that courtroom sensed something extraordinary unfolding. A child holding truths powerful enough to topple empires built on deception. If this story of courage and brilliance is moving you, don't forget to subscribe, because what David was about to reveal would not only change his life, but forever reshape how courts listen to children. Dr. Mitchell recovered quickly. "While we admire the child's imagination, this court handles complex legal matters requiring proper representation." "Then why didn't anyone provide one for me?" David asked, snapping his notebook shut. "For 8 months, no one thought it mattered to hear from the person most affected." Robert shifted uneasily. There was something deeply unsettling about the boy's composure. David wasn't intimidated by the courtroom, the lawyers, or even his own father. Janet watched, torn between pride and panic. For weeks, David had come home with law books, court precedents, and children's rights manuals. She assumed it was curiosity. She never imagined preparation. "Your Honor," Dr. Mitchell continued, "Mr. Wellington seeks custody out of genuine concern. Ms. Thompson lacks the resources to offer the opportunities a gifted child like David deserves." "Interesting," David murmured, reopening his notebook. "Genuine concern." Judge Harrison hesitated. In decades on the bench, he had never seen anything like this. "Mom," Janet whispered, "maybe we should let the lawyers—" "What? Lawyers?" David replied gently. "We can't afford them. Either I speak for us, or no one does." Robert finally spoke. "David, son." "Don't call me that," David said coldly. "In 9 years, you showed up 4 times. 2 birthdays, 3. Weeks late. 1 rushed Christmas. One press photo when you needed to look charitable. The room went dead silent. You criticized our furniture, complained about hospital smells, and told me I might have potential with a proper education. 2 weeks later, you filed for custody, Dr. Mitchell whispered urgently. David kept going. I researched my biological father. I found records of a lost lawsuit, a third marriage collapsing, and something very interesting about a trust fund my grandmother created. Robert's face drained of color. David smiled, not like a child, but like someone holding winning cards. My grandmother set aside $1.7 million for me, accessible at 18 or immediately if my father gained custody. The room froze. For 9 years, he ignored me. Now broke and desperate, he wants custody, not me. And there's more, David continued. She couldn't predict his pattern of exploiting struggling families. Dr. Mitchell leapt up. This is outrageous. I can prove it, David said, pulling out a neat folder. 17 lawsuits, predatory acquisitions, families destroyed. Judge Harrison examined the evidence carefully, and finally, David said, lifting a small recorder, there's this. The audio echoed through the courtroom. As soon as I get custody, the boy goes to military boarding school. Cheap, strict, I keep the rest of the trust. Janet sobbed. Dr. Mitchell went pale. There's more, David said quietly. The part where he calls me a problem. The judge shut off the recorder and stared at Robert. Mr. Wellington, Judge Harrison said gravely, your intentions are now painfully clear. Your Honor, David added, that school has 3 student suicides and is under federal investigation. To do what? David asked softly, when finances were raised again. Send me somewhere children die? Robert exploded in rage. I'm your father. No, David replied calmly. A father doesn't try to steal his child's future. The gavel struck. Custody denied. Fraud investigation ordered. Immediate arrest. As security escorted Robert away, David finally allowed himself a small smile. A child had just defeated money, power and corruption, with truth. 3 years later, David's story had gone viral. 50 million views. Laws changed in 17 states. A movement was born. I'd rather just be called David, he told a national audience. Someone who learned that every child has a voice. His mother watched from backstage, now a nursing supervisor with a scholarship program in her name. David taught children their rights. His book became a bestseller. Libraries nationwide carried children's legal sections. Across town, Robert watched from a small apartment. Everything gone. David never spoke of him with bitterness. I hope he finds peace, he once said. And when asked what advice he'd give children facing hardship, David looked into the camera. You're not alone. You're stronger than you. Think. And the truth always wins. He was 9 when he changed his world, and he proved that no one is ever too small to fight for justice.